Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the Hellwig Rear Anti-Sway Bar. Now when choosing any upgrades for your suspension, you really want to determine what do you need to do with it. If you are truly feeling sway, or anytime a gust of wind comes along and you're really kind of having to fight to bring it back to center, or if you're just making turns and it still seems like it's squashed to one side when making another quick turn, that rear anti-sway bar is going to make a huge difference because it's using the weight of the chassis and structurally mounting to the axle. As it flexes to one side, it's going to fight against it on the other, bringing it back to that center. And really, flat is good when it comes to handling. That just means that it's going to be better overall for parking lot driving or small maneuvering, but also out on the highway. This is what your sway bar is going to look like when it's installed, and you see that it sits on the rear of the differential, and right above the front of the differential you'll see there's another anti-sway bar, and that's our factory one. So we're not replacing that, we're just supplementing it, which is really going to just double up and fight against that sway while driving, which translates to better overall driving experience for you in the driver's seat. So with our sway bar officially installed, we're out taking it for our first test drive. And these, every time I've done them, it's just the first turn you can really tell a difference, and that's the case here. So on my before drive, just to kind of get our footage, I found that the handling of this was almost laughably bad. This already had sumo springs, but the sway was just terrible. It felt like it wanted to tip over, and honestly, just that turn alone makes me feel like it's really doing a good job of keeping it nice and flat, and that's where you get that cleaner handling. There's a little bit, I'm not going to say it's heavier feeling in the steering. It's about the same, but it's just planted. It feels like the whole chassis is just, center of gravity is just a little bit better. It doesn't feel like the whole thing wants to lean over as I turn. What I think a lot of people want sway bars for is when they're out on the road and you get that gust of wind or a semi passing you or whatever it may be. That's where you're really going to find that the whole RV is just going to be more planted. It just is a more solid feel. It's going to cut down on the white knuckling. So especially if you've ever driven in high winds, on an open highway or in weather, you're really fighting on the wheel, just having to kind of keep this thing from going side to side, and it's very unsettling feeling. Where this, once you have those sway bars in, it really just kind of absorbs everything, allowing you to focus on the road, making it a lot more comfortable to just kind of have a nice smooth operation throughout the driving experience. Things that you'll see on this sway bar that differentiate from factory ones is going to be urethane bushings. That's going to be huge. On any aftermarket suspension that I've done, urethane is just the go-to. It's a lot stronger. It holds up to pretty much anything you can throw at it. It just doesn't break down over time, where you have some other rubber bushings that once they're gone, they're gone. This is also 4140 chromoly steel, so super solid. It's 1 3/4 inches, so it's pretty thick here, and all of that just holds up to that weight. Even our end links are pretty solid here and bolt up to a frame bracket. So it's utilizing a lot of the factory spots, which is really nice. There isn't any drilling required for the installation, which is also nice. Now, the finish you can see is this hammer tone finish, which is a little bit different than what you might have seen on other sway bars. And it does have little porous spots here, and that's really twofold. It holds up a little bit better to scratching, chips, anything like that than a flat surface would, but also when you grease up your urethane bushings, it creates little pockets to hold that grease in place, where some of your other sway bars will be a flat powder coat. And unfortunately, when you have flat-to-flat contact, that grease is going to want to push itself out. Well, these little pockets here are going to hold that grease in, so long-term, it's going to keep this lubricated a lot longer. Now, what's also nice is these are designed to work with a lot of different accessories that you may put on. It's not going to interfere with most of them. So we actually have sumo springs that were already installed. Now, I did have to remove these for installation purposes, but once we had our new U-bolts in place, and these went back in with no problem. Now, your sway bar could be the thickest thing out there, but it's really only as good as the mounting points to the chassis. So all that stress has to transfer somewhere, and you want that equally as strong. And this one works with a bracket that bolts up to the bottom of our U-bolts, which we actually have new U-bolts in the kit. So those are going to drop in and allow you to use that factory plate, and then the new brackets, which are also a nice black powder coat finish. So that's going to hold up. Same with our end links, and also all the hardware is zinc coated. So whatever you throw at your RV, whatever the elements may be, all of this is going to hold up long term. Reducing body roll on something like this that feels top heavy when it drives. The chassis is very solid and the center of gravity, it's not going to roll over per se, but it definitely feels that way when you drive it sometimes. And this is a great way to reduce that. So especially if you're out, camping out in the mountains or whatever it may be, where you have some twisty roads, that's where you really don't want to feel that top heavy feel. And that's where you're going to get more confidence. Every time you drive your vehicle with those sway bars in place, you're going to feel like it's more planted, you know what it's doing, and it's going to be able to just handle those turns just a little bit better. And that was a look at the Hellwig Rear Anti-Sway Bar.